Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's video. Real quickly, before I get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out and thank you all the new subscribers that have joined me in the past couple weeks. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but as of recording today, I have 43 subscribers. Woohoo! Which I think is very impressive since I started very recently, and I'm going to take it as a win in my book, so I'm very proud of that. Thank you all the new subscribers, and thank you for everyone that started with me earlier on. Very much appreciated. I wouldn't be here without you. I'm really enjoying this YouTube and this running experience, so here's to more videos and hopefully more subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Also, real quick, if you haven't already, please like the video or be one of those new subscribers and subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell icon and the subscribe button down there. You guys know the drill. Thank you so much. So in last week's video, we talked about the 5 things that I absolutely loved about running in New York. So if you're interested to hear that first part of this list, go check out that video. The link can be found here. But in this week's video, we're going to be talking about the 5 things that are absolutely the worst or things that I hate about running in New York. So it's kind of like a 2-part video. So again, that's why I said, if you want to check out the first video, you can go find it in my video description. Before all that, I'm going to give a quick update on my performance from this past weekend's run, the run that you guys are currently watching right now. As far as where I ran mostly on the west side of Manhattan, along the Hudson River. As you can see, I started just about at Pier 87, where the Intrepid Museum is, and headed south. My original plan was to run south along the Hudson River to about the Fide area and go check out what's going on around there. But kind of on a whim, I decided to run along all the docks and piers that I could on that the west side of Manhattan, and that added on so many extra miles and extra time on my run that I didn't get there as I intended. I ended up getting to about Soho area, but I wasn't too mad about that. It still turned out to be a pretty long, decent run, and I still ended up close to about the subways, so it was easy to get home, and no problems with that. Although I will say, Soho did not have the easiest grocery store for me to find. I just wanted a quick apple and maybe a Gatorade to help get some electrolytes, and it took me a hot minute to find one, so maybe I won't be ending runs in Soho anytime soon, because that did suck for about an hour. So about the run. So I went a total of 9.23 miles, and I ran for an hour and 53 minutes. Now the goal was to run anywhere between 110 minutes and 120 minutes, so I was within the goal, but I wasn't too happy with this run myself. I'm not quite sure if it was because I was running into the wind, which was causing a lot of drag on my end and making me exert a lot more effort to keep up the pace, or the fact that it was super hot and I was in the sun for a lot of this run, and I was just drenched in sweat and just running low on electrolytes. But I did not have a fantastic pace for this one. I had an okay pace, and I'm still happy I was able to run that long and get the run done. But I only averaged about 12 minutes and 19 seconds for every mile. Not my best, but I'm gonna use a little bit of excuses of the temperature and the wind, which weren't great. But hopefully on my next run it's not as long, so hopefully I'll be able to keep up a much higher pace, but tune in for that. Okay, so back to today's video's topic, and that's the 5 things I find the most irritating, or the things that I hate the most about running in New York. Now, this list isn't in any particular order, except for the last one, which is actually the one I hate the most, but you'll have to watch the whole video for that one, so stay tuned for that. Now, a lot of things on this list you'll probably find running in other urban areas. It just so happens that I run in New York. Also, again, since I run in Manhattan, this is going to be a very Manhattan-skewed list, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if you find exactly all these problems in the other boroughs like Queens or Brooklyn, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so starting off this list with number 1 of the worst things to me, it is crowds. Now, I know what you're thinking, Macho. Of course the sidewalks in New York are busy with people. It's one of the most populated cities in all the United States. And of course the streets are just filled with cars and buses and taxis. I get it. That's not what I'm talking about. Actually, I kind of enjoy running through busy streets like that because it keeps my brain focused, and it's kind of like running in between people. I bet those people don't like it, but it's fun and it keeps me entertained. The type of crowds I'm talking about are tour groups, or people setting giant lines to get inside of a building, or school trips and things like that. Those types of crowds tend to bunch up really close together, so you don't even have a chance to weave through them, and try to get by quickly, you usually have to stop and try to ask people to get by. Also, they're usually not paying attention because there's so much more going on with their group that they don't even notice you trying to get by them. It's not super frustrating, but when you're trying to keep a pace and there's just large crowds in the way and having to stop, be like, excuse me, it can get a bit tiresome. And depending on the time of the year, these crowds can be worse or better. Like for Christmas, there's probably no shot you could catch me running around Rockefeller Center. The crowds during there are just insane. So you can't even catch me walking around in that area that time of year. Next worst part about running New York is all the uneven sidewalks or pavements or walkways, or all the potholes that you'll face when you're running in New York. Now, New York is an older city, so of course it's going to have older roads and older infrastructure, and it's really hard for the city to maintain a lot of this stuff because of how active the city is. But so oftentimes I'll be running on the sidewalk and just catch a pavement wrong and just do a big stumble in front of people. But luckily I've never fallen, but I have had some embarrassing moments where I have a big stumble in front of a big group of people, or I almost run into somebody or someone's dog because of, I trip over a pavement. The uneven pavement isn't the worst of it though. I will say there are a lot of streets that have big potholes in it because of the cars driving over them. And if you're not paying attention and you put your foot in that pothole not expecting it, it's so easy to roll it. I've almost rolled my ankle so many times running in the streets, especially the busier streets like 5th or, closer to the Central Park. Or sometimes if you go lower to the lower Manhattan, those are older streets, smaller streets that big semis go over. So when they're at bigger potholes, and if you're not aware of it, you can just trip and fumble and hurt yourself pretty badly. Again, luckily I've never rolled my ankle or anything like that. But I do keep a pretty good eye out for the ones I've fallen before, and just next time I'm running in that area, just, keep an eye out for it because it can sneak up on you. This next one might seem a little confusing, especially since just before this I was talking about how the streets and pavements need to be worked on in the city. But the next worst thing about running New York is all the construction or street closures. Since this is such an active and changing city, so oftentimes I'll just be running in the city and just randomly the streets will be closed, or the sidewalk is going to be shrunk down to just a one-person lane. And if there's no way to get to the road, then you just have to walk behind everyone as we all just head down next to this construction. Not only does the construction close down the road sometimes, but also the NYPD and other activities that happen in the city, like parades and protests and things like that. And I have no problem with any of those things, but I will say the city does this frustrating thing where they'll shut down an entire avenue, basically cutting off access from one side of Manhattan to the other side. A kind of a funny story is once I went out for a run on St. Patrick's Day, not remembering that they have a parade for that. And I got stuck on the west side of Manhattan while the parade was going on, and I had to take a crazy route in the subways just to get back to the east side. It was kind of funny, but also terrible. Next on the list of the things that I don't like about running New York, it has to be the smells of New York. And I'm not just talking about the garbage because, everyone knows that sometimes the streets of Manhattan just have garbage laid out all over them. Depending on what street you run on and when, it could be trash day for that street and you're basically screwed and have to deal with that smell. But I'm also talking about just car exhaust and just hot air that comes out of other cars when you're running by them. Nothing's worse than when you're gasping for air because you're running 10 miles and just getting a heaping lung full of just taxi cab exhaust. It just throws you off your breathing, just makes you cough up a fit, and just no good at all. But yeah, definitely could live without the smells of garbage and urine and other, car exhaust problems that New York has. But before I get to my actual number one thing that I despise about running New York, I want to take a quick break and give a quick message. I want to ask everyone to join me and support New York Roadrunners and their Team for Kids program. Again, New York Roadrunners provides free fitness programs to children, helping them stay active, learn discipline, and lead healthier lives. Your donation makes these programs possible, giving kids the opportunities to thrive. If you have a moment, click the link in the description to learn more or scan the QR code. Again, any contribution helps immensely. Thank you so much for supporting me in all my fundraising efforts. Together, I hope we can make a difference. Thank you again so much. Now back to the list. Okay, now for the number one thing that I despise about running in New York. I call it the bane of New York. and that's all the bicycle riders that are here. Now you're probably shocked because, biking and running aren't too far off. But believe me, here in New York, you're way more likely to get hit by a bike rider than a car. 100%, no arguments. There's too much traffic in Manhattan, and it's too predictable what cars will be doing that you're never really at any risk of a car unless it's like speeding way too fast. But for bikers, they think no rules applies to them and they just don't listen to anything that goes on. The number of times I've almost gotten hit by a biker when it's I have the walk for a crosswalk, I can't count them. It's crazy how often this happens. And not just like the small tiny commuter bikes, but like the big massive electric bikes that weigh like 3 times as much as a normal bike, flying at me like at 30 miles an hour and I had to like jump out of the way. I have no problem if people want to ride their bike to work or anything like that. All I ask is that you please just follow the same traffic lights as a car when there are people around. That's all. That's all a normal pedestrian can ask for, honestly. I didn't even mention how often bikes just ride on sidewalks, which are also very dangerous. But that's enough hate about bikes. That'll do it for this video. Thank you everyone for watching so much. This whole YouTube thing's been so fun. Hopefully you guys tune in next week for a video. Real quick, another shout out to New York Roadrunners and their Team for Kids Foundation. Again, scan the QR code or click the link in the description if you're curious. Also, again, shout out all my other socials. Macho Marathon Man. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and here on YouTube, of course. Again, like the video if you haven't. Subscribe if you want to listen to more. Thank you again, everyone, so much for watching. See you guys next week. Bye.